The year was 2347, and Earth had become very quiet among the stars. Humans had discovered how to travel faster than light almost 100 years ago. They had built great ships and explored distant worlds. They had met alien species and learned that the galaxy was full of life. But after seeing what was out there, humanity made a strange choice. They decided to stay home. The United Terran Council ruled over all of humanity. They watched the galaxy from far away but never got involved. Wars happened between alien empires. Species were conquered and enslaved. Terrible things occurred in the dark spaces between stars, and humans just watched. Admiral Kang Jun was the leader of Earth's military. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 40 years in service, and he understood why Earth stayed silent. The galaxy was dangerous. Getting involved meant risking everything. So humanity built its defenses, trained its soldiers, and waited. But waited for what? Even Kang Jun did not know the answer. The Terran Listening Array was a massive network of satellites and stations that circled the outer edge of human space. Its job was simple: listen to everything. Every radio signal, every communication beam, every whisper that traveled through space. Thousands of workers spent their days sorting through endless noise, looking for anything important. Park Sara was one of these workers. She was 26 years old with short black hair and round glasses. She had worked at Listening Station 7 for 3 years. Most days were boring. She would sit at her desk, drink cold coffee, and listen to alien merchants arguing about prices or diplomats saying nothing important in many words. But this day was different. It was a Tuesday. Sara remembered this clearly because Tuesdays were usually the quietest days. She was about to take her lunch break when her computer made a sound she had never heard before. A priority alert, the highest level. She put down her coffee and looked at the screen. A signal had been detected from a place called Bora 7. Sara had never heard of it. She pulled up the information. It was a small farming world in neutral space, very far from Earth. A species called the Luri lived there. They were peaceful amphibian creatures known for making beautiful music and art. The signal was weak and broken. Sara ran it through the translation program. The computer struggled with it for a long time. When the translation finally appeared, Sara felt her heart stop. It was a child's voice. "Please," the voice said through static and noise. "Please, anyone who can hear this. They came from the sky. They are taking us. The Vel are taking the children. My mother told me to hide and send this message. Please, someone help us. They are breaking down the door, please." The message ended. Sara sat frozen at her desk. Her hands were shaking. She played the message again and again. Each time she heard the same desperate voice. A child, probably no older than 10, begging the universe for help. She knew about the Vel. Everyone knew about the Vel. The Vel Dominion was an empire of slavers that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years. They were insectoid creatures, tall and cruel, with no mercy in their hearts. They raided worlds, took prisoners, and sold them across the galaxy. No one stopped them because no one could. Their fleet was massive. Their cruelty was legendary. And now they were on Bora 7, taking children. Sara's training told her to file a report and wait for instructions. But something deeper told her this could not wait. She copied the message and sent it directly to her supervisor. Then she sent it to his supervisor. Then she sent it to the military command center on Earth. Within 1 hour, the message reached Admiral Kang Jun. The admiral was in his office when his assistant brought him the file. He was tired. He had spent the morning in meetings about supply routes and ship maintenance. Boring things. Important things, but boring. "Sir," his assistant said, "you need to hear this." Kang Jun took the file and played the message. The child's voice filled his quiet office. He listened once. Then he listened again. Then he listened a third time. His hands, which had been steady through 100 battles, began to shake. He thought about his own granddaughter. She was 8 years old. She liked to draw pictures of spaceships and dreamed of exploring the stars one day. He imagined her hiding in a dark room, sending a desperate message while monsters broke down her door. Something changed in Kang Jun at that moment. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time woke up. He called an emergency meeting of the Terran Council. The council members gathered within 2 hours. 12 of the most powerful people on Earth sat around a long table, looking confused. Emergency meetings were rare. Emergency meetings called by the Admiral were even rarer. Kang Jun did not waste time with greetings. He played the message for everyone. The room fell silent. "This message was received 6 hours ago," Kang Jun said. "It came from a Luri colony called Bora 7. The Vel Dominion is raiding the planet. They are taking prisoners. They are taking children." One of the council members, an older woman named Yoon Murray, spoke first. "This is terrible, Admiral, but what do you expect us to do? The Vel Dominion is outside our space. We have a policy of non-intervention." "I know our policy," Kang Jun said. "I helped write it." "Then you understand why we cannot get involved," another council member said. "If we attack the Vel, we start a war. A war with an empire that has 10,000 warships. We would be risking all of humanity for strangers." Kang Jun looked around the table. He saw fear in their eyes. He understood it. Fear was reasonable. Fear kept people alive. But fear was not always right. "I have spent my entire life protecting humanity," Kang Jun said slowly. "I have made hard choices. I have let terrible things happen because stopping them was too dangerous. I told myself it was the smart thing to do, the safe thing." He paused and looked at the screen where the message had played. "But I listened to that child's voice, and I realized something. If we hear a cry for help and do nothing, what are we protecting? What is humanity worth if we are too afraid to help a child?" The room was silent. Council member Yoon Murray leaned forward. "What are you proposing, Admiral?" Kang Jun stood up straight. For the first time in years, he felt truly awake. "I am proposing that we answer the call. I am proposing that we send a message to the Vel Dominion and tell them to release every prisoner from Bora 7. And if they refuse—" He paused. "Then we show the galaxy what happens when you make children cry for help." The council members looked at each other. Some were scared. Some were uncertain. But in their eyes something else was growing. Something that had been buried under years of caution and fear. It was anger. "We will need to send someone to the Galactic Council," Yoon Murray said. "Someone to deliver our message officially." Kang Jun nodded. "I know exactly who to send." Across the city, in a small apartment filled with books and old photographs, Ambassador Lee Hana received a call that would change her life forever. And far away, on a burning world called Bora 7, Luri children huddled in cages and prayed to gods they did not know if they believed in anymore. But they did not know that their prayer had already been answered. Earth had heard them. And Earth was coming. Ambassador Lee Hana had not slept in 36 hours. She sat in a small ship traveling faster than light toward the center of the galaxy. Outside her window, stars blurred into long lines of white and blue. Inside, she read every file the Terran Council had given her. Information about the Vel Dominion. Information about the Galactic Council. Information about every species that might support humanity or stand against it. Hana was 52 years old with silver streaks in her black hair. She had spent her life studying alien cultures and learning how to speak to beings that thought in ways humans could barely understand. She had represented Earth at minor trade negotiations and small diplomatic events. Nothing important. Nothing that mattered. But now everything mattered. Admiral Kang Jun had called her personally. He had played the child's message for her. Then he had asked her a simple question. "Can you make them listen?" She had said yes. She had said it without hesitation. And now, as her ship raced toward the Galactic Council headquarters, she wondered if she had been too confident. The Galactic Council was an ancient institution. It had existed for over 50,000 years, created when the first spacefaring species decided to form a government that could prevent wars and protect the weak. That was the idea, at least. The reality was very different. The Council had over 200 member species. They argued about everything. They made rules that no one followed. They gave speeches about peace while selling weapons to both sides of every conflict. The Vel Dominion had been raiding worlds for 10,000 years, and the Council had done nothing except express deep concern and pass strong resolutions. The Council was a place where words went to die. But Hana did not have words. She had something much more powerful. She had a recording of a child begging for help. The Council headquarters was located on a massive space station called the Grand Forum. It was beautiful and ancient, decorated with art from 1,000 worlds. Hana walked through its halls with her head held high. Aliens of every shape and size watched her pass. Most of them had never seen a human in person. Earth had been silent for so long that many had forgotten humans existed at all. The main chamber was enormous. Seats rose in circles around a central platform where speakers could address the entire council. When Hana entered, she saw that most seats were empty. Only about 40 representatives had bothered to attend. The Torak representative, a large creature covered in thick brown fur, spoke first. The Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. This is unexpected. We were not aware that humans engaged in galactic politics. Hana walked to the central platform. Her footsteps echoed in the half-empty chamber. Earth has requested this emergency session to address an urgent matter, she said. Her voice was calm and clear. 40 hours ago, the Vel Dominion launched a raid on the peaceful world of Bora 7. They are enslaving the Luri people. They are taking children from their families. A few representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked bored, others looked uncomfortable. This is indeed terrible, the Torak representative said, but the Vel Dominion is a sovereign power. The Council cannot interfere in the internal matters of member states without proper procedure. We will form a committee to investigate and— No, Hana said. The chamber fell silent. Representatives stared at her in shock. No one interrupted the Torak. No one said no to the Council. Earth did not come here to ask for a committee, Hana continued. We came here to inform the Council of our intentions. We are giving the Vel Dominion 48 standard hours to release every captive from Bora 7, every single one. If they refuse— She paused and looked around the chamber slowly. We will retrieve them ourselves. For a moment there was complete silence. Then the laughter started. It began with the Torak representative, a deep rumbling sound. Then others joined in. The Mekari delegation, the Sorn trade ministers, even the small delegation from the Plix homeworld. They laughed like Hana had told the funniest joke they had ever heard. Little human, the Torak managed to say between laughs, do you know who the Vel are? They have the largest fleet in the galaxy, 10,000 warships. They have destroyed civilizations that were ancient when your species still lived in caves. What could Earth possibly do? Hana did not react. She had expected this. A door at the far end of the chamber opened, and a new figure entered. He was tall and covered in dark green exoskeleton, with many arms and mandibles that clicked as he moved. Lord Keth, the Vel ambassador. The laughter died as Keth walked to the platform. He moved slowly, deliberately, enjoying the attention. He stopped in front of Hana and looked down at her with black, unfeeling eyes. So, Keth said, his voice like stones grinding together, the little humans have finally left their hiding place. How amusing. I have heard stories about your species. Soft creatures, emotional, weak. He leaned closer. My people have been collecting slaves for 10,000 years. We have broken species far older and stronger than yours. What makes you think you can threaten us? Hana reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. She pressed a button, and the child's message played through the chamber's speakers. Please, anyone who can hear this. They came from the sky, they are taking us. The Vel are taking the children. My mother told me to hide and send this message. Please, someone help us. They are breaking down the door, please. The message ended. The chamber was no longer laughing. This message was sent by a Luri child on Bora 7, Hana said quietly. She was hiding from your soldiers while you broke into her home. She begged the universe for help, and the universe sent that message to Earth. Lord Keth was unmoved. A child crying, how touching. And what will you do about it, human? Write an angry letter, hold a protest, cry to your gods. Hana looked up at him. She was barely half his height, but in that moment she did not seem small. 48 hours, she said. Release every captive, leave Bora 7, or face the consequences. And if we refuse? Hana smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made Lord Keth suddenly feel very cold. Then you will learn why humans have been so quiet for the last 100 years. She turned and walked toward the exit. Wait, Lord Keth called after her. What is that supposed to mean? What have humans been doing? Hana stopped at the door and looked back over her shoulder. Building, she said simply. We have been building. Then she was gone. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Representatives argued with each other. What did she mean? What could humans have built? Their space was small. Their population was limited. They had never shown interest in military power. Lord Keth watched the door where Hana had disappeared. He felt something strange in his stomach, something he had not felt in centuries. It was doubt. He pushed it away. Humans were nothing. A young species barely out of their birth world. They were bluffing. They had to be bluffing. But as he left the council chamber and sent orders to his commanders to continue operations on Bora 7, he could not forget the way that human woman had smiled. Back on her ship, Hana sent a simple message to Admiral Kang Jun. Message delivered. They laughed. The Admiral's response came within minutes. Good. They will not be laughing for long. Across human space, something began to wake up. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons started their engines. Soldiers who had trained for decades without ever seeing real combat received their orders. Weapons that had been built in secret factories deep underground were loaded onto transport vessels. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. The galaxy thought humanity was afraid. They were about to learn how wrong they were. And on Bora 7, the Vel continued their work. They did not know that every hour they spent loading children onto slave ships was an hour closer to their destruction. The countdown had begun. 48 hours. Not 1 minute more. The 48 hours passed slowly for Admiral Kang Jun. He spent the time in the command center of the Terran fleet, watching reports come in from every corner of human space. Ships were moving. Soldiers were preparing. The machine of war that humanity had built in secret was finally coming to life. For 100 years, Earth had stayed silent, but silence did not mean sleep. It meant preparation. After humans discovered faster-than-light travel, they had explored the galaxy and seen what was out there. They saw the wars, the empires, the cruelty. They saw the Vel Dominion raiding innocent worlds. They saw the Galactic Council doing nothing, and they made a choice. They would not become like the others. They would not build an empire or conquer worlds, but they would make sure that if the day ever came when help was truly needed, they would be ready. So they built. They built shipyards in hidden locations. They trained soldiers in secret facilities. They developed weapons that no other species had imagined, and they waited. Now the wait was over. Commander Yun Ti stood beside Admiral Kang Jun, watching the main display. She was the best tactical officer in the fleet, a woman who could see patterns in chaos and find order in battle. All ships are in position, she reported. 12,417 vessels, ready to jump on your command, Admiral. Kang Jun nodded slowly. 12,000 ships, more than the entire Vel Dominion fleet. And these were not ordinary ships. They were the result of 100 years of development, each one more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "What is the status of the Vel fleet at Bora 7? He asked. "Approximately 3,000 warships in orbit, another 500 on the planet's surface. They are loading prisoners onto transport vessels." Yun-Ti paused. "Sir, they have not responded to our deadline. They are ignoring us." "Of course they are," Kang Jun said. "They think we are bluffing." He looked at the countdown timer on the wall. 3 minutes remained. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we are receiving a message from the Vel flagship. Lord Keth wishes to speak with you." "Put him through." The main screen flickered, and Lord Keth's insectoid face appeared. He was sitting in a command chair surrounded by his officers. They were all laughing. "Admiral Kang Jun of Earth," Keth said, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "Your deadline is almost finished. I wanted to personally thank you for the entertainment. My officers have been wagering on what you will do when nothing happens. Will you cry? Will you send another angry message? Perhaps you will hold a ceremony of shame." Kang Jun looked at the alien commander with calm eyes. "Lord Keth," he said, "you have 2 minutes to surrender your fleet and release your prisoners. This is your last warning." Keth laughed again. "Surrender to what? I have seen your records, human. Earth has perhaps 500 ships. We have 3,000 here alone. You are nothing." Kang Jun did not respond. He simply watched the countdown timer. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. "Farewell, human," Keth said. "When we are finished here, perhaps we will visit your Earth. I hear human children make excellent slaves. They are small and obedient and—" The timer reached 0. Kang Jun raised his hand. All ships jumped now. The space around Bora 7 had been quiet and dark. Vel warships floated in confident formations, their weapons cold, their crews relaxed. They had no reason to worry. They were the most powerful force in this part of the galaxy. Then the sky tore open. Fold space portals erupted in every direction. Not tens of portals, not hundreds, thousands. The darkness of space was replaced by blinding light as vessel after vessel after vessel emerged into real space. On his flagship, Lord Keth watched his tactical display and felt his blood run cold. That is impossible," he whispered. Human ships filled the void, dreadnoughts the size of small moons, carriers launching swarms of fighter craft, cruisers with weapons that glowed with barely contained energy, and at the center of the formation, a single ship larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Unyielding Dawn, Admiral Kang Jun's flagship. 12,000 ships, one of Keth's officers said, his voice shaking. "Sir, they have 12,000 ships." "Open fire," Keth screamed. "All ships open fire." The Vel fleet responded instantly. 3,000 warships turned their weapons toward the human fleet and fired everything they had. Missiles flew. Energy beams lanced through space. The void lit up with the fury of the Vel attack. The human fleet did not slow down. Their shields absorbed the incoming fire like water absorbing raindrops. Advanced technology that the Vel had never imagined turned deadly attacks into harmless light shows. And then the humans fired back. Commander Yun-Ti had spent 20 years planning for this moment. She had studied every battle the Vel had ever fought. She knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their fears. She knew exactly where to strike. "All wings, execute formation sunrise," she ordered calmly. The human fleet moved as one. Dreadnoughts positioned themselves to draw fire while cruisers slipped through the gaps. Fighters swarmed around Vel ships, disabling their engines and weapons. Precision strikes took out command vessels before they could coordinate. The battle was not a fight, it was a lesson. Vel's ships exploded one after another. Their captains screamed orders, but there was nothing they could do. Human weapons cut through their shields like they were not even there. Human ships moved faster than Vel's sensors could track. Captain Shin Nari commanded a frigate called the Silent Thunder. She was 34 years old, with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. Her grandmother had been a refugee from Earth's last great war, a woman who had seen the worst of humanity and still believed in its best. Nari had grown up on stories of that war, stories about what happened when good people did nothing, stories about the importance of answering when someone called for help. Now she was living her own story. "Captain," her navigator reported, "Lord Keth's flagship is attempting to escape. They are heading toward the jump point." Nari smiled coldly. "Not today, set intercept course." The Silent Thunder was small compared to Keth's massive command ship, but size did not matter. Speed mattered, precision mattered, and Nari had both. Her ship cut across the void like a knife, placing itself directly in Keth's path. "Lord Keth," she broadcast on an open channel, "this is Captain Shin Nari of the Terran fleet. Surrender your vessel and prepare to be boarded." Keth's voice came back, filled with rage and fear. "You cannot do this. Do you know who I am? The Vel Dominion will destroy your world. We will." "You will do nothing," Nari interrupted. "You wanted to add humanity to your collection. You wanted to make our children into slaves. Let me show you what happens to creatures who threaten human children." She nodded to her weapons officer. "Fire." The Silent Thunder's main weapon spoke once. It was a beam of pure energy, designed to penetrate any shield, any armor, any defense the galaxy had ever created. Lord Keth's flagship did not explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, it was scattered atoms floating in the void. Across the battlefield, the remaining Vel ships saw their commander die. Their morale shattered. Some tried to flee, some tried to surrender, a few tried to fight to the death. It did not matter what they chose. 11 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 3,000 Vel warships had been reduced to floating debris. Not a single human vessel was destroyed. The technology gap was that vast. The preparation had been that thorough. Admiral Kang Jun looked at the display showing the empty space where the Vel fleet had been. "Signal the ground forces," he said quietly. "Tell them the sky is clear. It is time to bring our people home." Below on Bora 7, Vel soldiers looked up and saw their fleet burning in the atmosphere like falling stars. And in cages across the planet, Luri prisoners heard a sound they had never expected to hear. Human ships descending from the sky. Help had arrived. The first human boots touched the soil of Bora 7, just 17 minutes after the space battle ended. Marine Commander Beek Minyu led the assault. He was a large man with kind eyes and rough hands, a soldier who had trained for 20 years without ever seeing real combat. His entire career had been preparation for a day that might never come. But now it had come, and he was ready. "Remember your orders," he told his troops as their landing craft descended through the burning atmosphere. "We are not here to conquer. We are here to rescue, protect the innocent, secure the prisoners, and show these slavers what happens when they take children." His soldiers nodded. They were scared and excited and angry all at once. They had all heard the child's message. They had all imagined their own families in those cages. The landing craft touched down near the main Vel holding facility, a massive gray building surrounded by fences and guard towers. Vel soldiers scrambled to defend it, but they were confused and terrified. Their fleet was gone. Their commander was dead. And now these human soldiers were pouring out of ships with weapons they had never seen before. "Surrender and you will be treated fairly," Minyu broadcast through his helmet speakers. "Resist and you will be destroyed." Some Vel dropped their weapons immediately. Others tried to fight. Minyu's soldiers moved through them with cold efficiency. Human combat armor was designed to withstand far greater threats than Vel weapons. Human rifles fired energy pulses that could disable targets without killing them, or cut through steel when needed. Within 30 minutes, the facility was secured. Private Han Yunji was part of the team that entered the holding cells. She was 23 years old, one of the youngest soldiers in the unit. She had joined the military because she wanted to make a difference. She wanted to help people. Nothing had prepared her for what she saw inside. The holding cells were not cells at all. They were cages. Metal boxes barely large enough to sit in, stacked from floor to ceiling. Inside each cage was a Luri prisoner. They were amphibian creatures with smooth blue-green skin, large dark eyes, and delicate hands meant for creating art, not fighting. And so many of them were children. Yunji felt her throat tighten as she walked through the rows of cages. Hundreds of Luri looked back at her with expressions of pure terror. They had never seen humans before. To them, she was just another alien with weapons, another monster come to hurt them. "It's okay," she said softly, her voice translator converting her words to the Luri language. "We're here to help. We're here to take you home." The Luri did not respond. They had heard lies before. Why would these creatures be any different? Yunji knelt beside a cage holding a very young Luri child, probably no more than 5 or 6 years old. The child was shaking, tears streaming from her large eyes. "Hey," Yunji said gently. She removed her helmet so the child could see her face. "My name is Yunji. What's your name?" The child stared at her for a long moment. Then in a tiny voice she said, "Mila." "Mila, that's a beautiful name." Yunji carefully opened the cage door. "Mila, I'm going to pick you up now, okay? I'm going to carry you somewhere safe. Is that okay?" Mila hesitated. Then she reached out her small hands. Yunji lifted the child from the cage and held her close. Mila weighed almost nothing. Her small body trembled against Yunji's chest. "It's okay," Yunji whispered. "It's okay, you're safe now. No one will hurt you anymore." Across the facility, similar scenes unfolded. Human soldiers opened cages and freed prisoners. Medical teams rushed in to treat the wounded. Translators worked overtime to explain what was happening, to calm the terrified survivors. Commander Minyu found the worst of it in the basement levels. The Vel had been preparing a large shipment of slaves. Over 2,000 Luri were crammed into a space meant for a few hundred. Many were sick. Some were dying. The smell was unbearable. Minyu had seen difficult things in training simulations, but nothing compared to the real thing. He had to step outside and take deep breaths before he could continue. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "we're receiving communications from Vel troops across the planet. They're asking to surrender." Minyu nodded. "Accept their surrender, confine them humanely. We're not like them." "Sir, we don't treat prisoners the way they do. We're better than that. We have to be better than that." The liberation took 3 days. Human troops moved across Bora 7, freeing prisoners from every Vel facility. They found families that had been separated and worked to bring them back together. They found Luri who had been injured and brought them to human medical ships for treatment. Private Yunji spent most of those 3 days carrying children. Little Mila refused to let go of her, so Yunji simply carried her while she worked. When she finally located Mila's aunt, the only family member who had survived, Yunji had to gently pry the child's hands from her armor. "You came," Mila's aunt said, her voice breaking. "We sent messages for help for so long. No one ever came. Why did you come?" Yunji thought about the question. Why had they come? Bora 7 was far from Earth. The Luri were strangers. There was nothing to gain from helping them. "Because we heard you," Yunji finally said. "Because someone cried for help and we could not ignore it." The aunt stared at her with wide, wet eyes. "But no one helps strangers. That is not how the galaxy works." "Maybe it should be." On the third day, Admiral Kang Jun came down to the planet's surface. He walked through the refugee camps that human engineers had built. He saw lurid children playing for the first time in weeks, chasing each other through the grass while human soldiers watched over them. He found Commander Minyu sitting alone on a hill, overlooking the main camp. "How are you, Commander?" Kang Jun asked. Minyu did not look at him. He was watching the camp below. "I've been asking myself something, Admiral. We've had the power to do this for years. We could have stopped the Vel a long time ago. We could have saved so many people." "Yes," Kang Jun said quietly, "we could have." "Then why didn't we?" Kang Jun sat down beside him. Fear, caution, the belief that staying out of other people's problems was the safe choice. We told ourselves that the galaxy's cruelty was not our responsibility. And now, Kang Jun watched a human medic carrying a Luri elder to a treatment tent. He watched soldiers sharing their food rations with refugees. He watched Yunji teaching Mila a human clapping game while the child laughed for the first time in weeks. "Now I think we were wrong," he said. "We have power. Power we hid because we were afraid of what the galaxy would think, afraid of getting involved, afraid of making enemies. But power without compassion is worthless, and compassion without action is just empty words." He stood up and looked at the sky, where human ships still patrolled. "The Vel thought we were weak because we stayed quiet. They thought kindness was weakness. They were wrong. Kindness backed by strength is the most powerful force in the universe." News of Bora 7 spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had lived in fear of the Vel for thousands of years watched in amazement as humans dismantled the slaving operations. They saw images of human soldiers carrying alien children to safety. They heard stories of kindness and mercy from a species they had dismissed as irrelevant. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. The representatives who had laughed at Ambassador Li Hana were no longer laughing. They were terrified. What else had humanity built in secret? What other powers were they hiding? And most importantly, what would the humans do next? Ambassador Hana answered their questions with a simple statement. "Earth does not seek empire. We do not want your worlds or your resources, but we have made a promise to ourselves and to the galaxy. No cry for help will go unanswered. No child will be taken without consequence. The Vel believed they were beyond justice. They were wrong." She paused and looked at the silent chamber. "Learn from their mistake." And on Bora 7, the last Luri prisoners were loaded onto medical ships bound for recovery stations. They were weak and scared and traumatized. But they were free. And they would never forget who had freed them. 3 months after Bora 7, the Vel Dominion was gone. Admiral Kang Jun had given them a choice. After destroying their fleet at Bora 7, he moved the Terran Armada to the Vel homeworld. His ships filled the sky from horizon to horizon, so many that they blocked out the stars. He broadcast a single message to every Vel city, every government building, every military installation. "Release every slave. Destroy every chain. Dismantle every slaving facility. You have 1 week. If even one person remains in bondage after that week ends, we will finish what we started at Bora 7. The Vel leaders tried to negotiate. They offered wealth. They offered technology. They offered to share their empire with humanity. They promised to only enslave certain species, the ones that no one cared about. Kang Jun did not respond to their offers. He simply waited. On the 5th day, the Vel government surrendered unconditionally. Human observers landed on every Vel world to ensure compliance. Millions of slaves were freed, beings from dozens of species who had been held in bondage for generations. They emerged from underground facilities and labor camps blinking in the light, unable to believe that freedom was real. Private Han Yunji was part of one observation team. She walked through a Vel city watching former masters cower in fear, while former slaves walked free for the first time. An elderly creature from a species she did not recognize approached her with tears streaming down his face. 60 years, he said through a translator. I was a slave for 60 years. I was born a slave. My parents were slaves. My grandparents were slaves. I never thought I would die free. Yunji did not know what to say. She simply held his hand. Thank you, the old being whispered. Thank you for coming. Across the galaxy, something fundamental had changed. For thousands of years, the strong had preyed upon the weak without consequence. Empires rose and fell, but cruelty remained constant. The Galactic Council talked about justice while doing nothing to achieve it. Species looked the other way when their neighbors suffered because getting involved was too dangerous. But now there was a new power in the galaxy, a power that did not play by the old rules. Ambassador Lee Hanna addressed the full Galactic Council one final time. The chamber was packed. Every species, every delegation, every representative had come to hear what humanity would say. I stand before you today not as a conqueror, Hanna began. Earth does not want your planets. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule over you. She paused and looked around the chamber at the hundreds of faces watching her. But I want to make something very clear. What happened to the Vel will happen to anyone who follows their path. If you raid innocent worlds, we will find you. If you take children from their families, we will stop you. If you believe that your power makes you untouchable, you will learn otherwise. A Torak representative raised a limb. And who gives humanity the right to be the galaxy's judge? What makes you different from the Vel? Hanna nodded. It was a fair question. We are not judges. We are not police. We are neighbors who answer when someone knocks on our door asking for help. The difference between us and the Vel is simple. They use their power to cause suffering. We use ours to end it. She pulled out a small device, the same one she had used months ago. The child's message played once more through the chamber. Please, anyone who can hear this. They came from the sky. They are taking us. The Vel are taking the children. Please, someone help us. The message ended. That child, Hanna said softly, is named Mila. She is 7 years old. She survived the raid. She was rescued by our soldiers, and she will grow up free. The chamber was completely silent. We did not answer that call because it benefited us. We did not save those children because we wanted power or territory. We did it because someone was crying for help, and we could not look away. That is what makes us different. That is what will always make us different. She stepped back from the podium. This council has existed for 50,000 years. In all that time, how many cries for help have you heard? How many did you ignore because getting involved was inconvenient? How many worlds burned while you debated procedures? No one answered. We are not asking you to change, but we are telling you that we will not be silent anymore. Earth has awakened, and we will be watching. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. In the months that followed, the galaxy transformed. Slaving operations across known space collapsed. Traffickers fled to the outer regions, terrified of drawing human attention. Species that had been raided for generations began to rebuild. Trade routes became safer. Fear gave way to something that many beings had never experienced before. Hope. Not all changes were positive. Some species resented humanity's new role. They saw it as arrogance, as humans imposing their values on others. There were protests. There were threats. There were whispered plans for alliances against Earth. But nothing came of those plans. No one was willing to be the first to test humanity's resolve. The images from Bora 7 were too fresh. The memory of 12,000 human ships emerging from fold space was too powerful. 1 year after the rescue, the Luri held a ceremony on their homeworld. They invited the humans who had saved them. Admiral Kang Jun came, along with Commander Minyu, Captain Nari, and Private Yunji. They stood awkwardly in their formal uniforms while thousands of Luri gathered around them. The Luri leader, an ancient being named Elder Torem, approached Admiral Kang Jun with a small object in his hands. It was a crystal sculpture of a human hand holding a Luri child. "We do not have wealth," Elder Torem said. "We do not have powerful weapons or great fleets. We only have our gratitude and our art. Please accept this gift as a symbol of what you mean to us." Kang Jun took the sculpture carefully. It was beautiful, every detail perfect. "Thank you," he said, "but we do not need monuments. We need you to remember something more important." "What is that?" Kang Jun looked at the crowd of Luri watching him. Children sat on their parents' shoulders, families held hands, elders wept tears of joy. "Someday, another species will need help. They will send a message into the void just like you did. And when that happens, I hope you will answer. Not because you owe us, but because it is the right thing to do. That is how we change the galaxy. Not through conquest or power, but through kindness spreading from world to world." Elder Tarim bowed deeply. "We understand, Admiral. We will remember, and we will answer." 2 years after Bora 7, Admiral Kang Jun retired. He returned to Earth and settled in a small coastal town far from the great cities. He spent his mornings walking on the beach and his afternoons teaching history to local children. He told them stories about Earth's past, about the terrible wars humans had fought against each other, about the lessons they had learned through unimaginable suffering. "Power is not the same as strength," he would say. "Strength is knowing when to use power and when to show mercy. The strongest thing you can ever do is help someone who cannot help themselves." His students would listen with wide eyes, not fully understanding, but sensing that these words were important. Sometimes, late at night, Kang Jun would step outside and look up at the stars. He would think about the ships still patrolling out there, the soldiers still standing watch, the network of listening stations still scanning for cries in the dark. And he would wonder if somewhere out there, another species was looking up at their own sky, hopping for help. If they were, he knew what would happen. Someone on Earth would hear them, someone would answer, and the fleet would fly again. Because that was the promise humanity had made, not just to the Luri or the Vel's former slaves or the Galactic Council, but to themselves. They would never turn away from suffering again. They would never pretend they did not hear. They would never choose safety over righteousness. A new saying spread across the galaxy in the years after Bora 7. It was whispered by slaves in chains and shouted by children playing in the streets. It was carved into monuments and sung in ancient halls. It became a prayer for the hopeless and a warning for tyrants. "When all hope is lost, cry out toward the blue world. The humans will come." And across the vast emptiness of space, on a small blue planet orbiting an ordinary star, humanity kept its watch. Listening, waiting, ready, always ready. Because somewhere in the darkness, someone might need help. And when that call came, Earth would answer. It always would.